120 competitors from New South Wales and South East Queensland rolled up for the $1,000 Pro-Am ride. Under 5s to over 40s taking to the Tormina track. It's the first major competition of the season, held in the absence of star performer Tanya Burrows. Tanya is overseas competing in Spain. Action in the Seaside Challenge was fast and furious in the teenage divisions, good conditions providing fast, even competition throughout.
Although only a small business, Monet's Cafe is proving a huge success for all concerned. Under a special vocational rehabilitation program, it's operated by former patients who've undergone psychiatric care. The idea is to give people like Gerard Burke, who suffers depression, the skills and the chance to enter the workforce. He's hoping to help lessen the stigma of mental illness.
I feel very positive about it now. I've learned a lot of social skills and basic skills that I didn't have before, and I can prove to people that I'm just an ordinary person rather than a person with a psychiatric illness.
With the help of various government agencies, 15 participants have moved on to work experience. One has secured a job. After 12 months, the results are already showing.
Often an increase in their self-confidence, their self-esteem, they're building up of social networks, making friends, and go into work, having something valuable to do each day, which then enhances their quality of life.
And for Gerard, getting down to business has other rewards.
The profits aren't too bad. We seem to be holding our head above water.
Melinda Smith, NBN News. When Wallsend Hospital closed in September 1991, the move united a small community in a struggle that would last for almost a year and a half. And their efforts weren't in vain. Picketer Barbara Hards today expressed the feelings shared by many. Hunter Area Health Service Chief Dr Tim Smythe was on hand to help open Wallsend's new primary care service. Operating between the hours of 5 and 11 p.m. weekdays and open all weekends, a full range of general practice services, including X-ray, pathology and minor trauma treatment, are available. The scheme allows a cooperative of private doctors to lease the building and equipment from the Area Health Service. The facility will also be a base for GP training and research, one of many planned for the former hospital site.
It's the first step in a range of other services on the site. The Wallsend Nursing Home will be open later this year, expanding dental services and a range of other community health services. So Wallsend will become the high point of health services, I think, in Newcastle by next year.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Straight through the hole.
Ross Taylor is no ordinary mower and definitely not your average collector. He doesn't have just one lawnmower, but a grand total of 17. So why the fascination with antique grass cutters?
There's too many things these days being thrown out, and most of them here are original mowers. Well, they are original mowers, they've never been restored.
It's a collection that captures the history of one of our favourite pastimes.
The push mower is probably about 1920, and there's another mower there. It's got a Villiers motor on it, that's about 1920, and the Victor is one of the early ones.
But when one man's trash is another's treasure, it's wise to stay well clear when Ross and his machines are in action.
Well, they'll break car windows and the neighbours' windows and all this sort of stuff, so these early ones, yes, they're a bit dangerous, they are. They've known to cut tops of toes and all this sort of stuff.
With so many models to choose from, will such a hoarder of historical harvesters confess to the state of his own lawns?
Well, they're not too bad. They get a little bit long sometimes, but they're not too bad.
The Bell 212 helicopter is the latest in a line of choppers used by the Newcastle-based rescue service. Its extra size and endurance an advantage for offshore work. However, it was a challenge to land on the rolling deck of a ship. Ian Osborne piloted the chopper safely aboard the Caltex tanker Australian Sky en route from Gladstone to Newcastle. The Newcastle Paramedic Special Casualty Accident Team, trained for these emergencies, worked with the ship's crew to load a 54-year-old Sydney man on board the helicopter. He was suffering from a virus, but his condition had deteriorated over the past few days. The specialist ambulance team stabilised the man and he was airlifted to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital, where he's now in a stable condition.
Personal health is regarded as a major priority, but many are unable to afford basic care and treatment. Based at Charlestown, the Community Assistance Centre, run by the Victory Baptist Church, says it's a problem on the increase. In the past few months, the service has been swamped with requests from families struggling to pay the excess on doctors' bills and over-the-counter medication.
Part of the cost of their family life has been to hold off even going to the doctors, to the point where maybe their health has been suffering because they just simply can't afford the medical care that they need.
Although the government provides a healthcare card for people on low incomes, unless under the National Health Scheme, many prescription drugs are expensive and there are other needs.
We have mothers who come to us for us to supply the formula for their babies. Now, you know, to me, that's pretty tough when a family has to even get help just to buy baby formula.
Reverend David Jones says the service is providing $2,000 in emergency funds, but it's no guarantee the problem will disappear.
We have earmarked this simply because we know it's a problem. We want to be sensitive to people's needs. We want to say to them, help is available specifically for health needs, and if the need is greater than we anticipate, then we're certainly committed to increasing the amount we've earmarked.
Melinda Smith, NBN News. There's a theory that life on Earth as we know it began when a huge meteorite crash-landed through the atmosphere millions of years ago. Throughout the centuries, man has watched spectacular displays through the skies, some even lucky enough to witness their unexpected arrival on planet Earth.
I got in the past one case, it was actually the first on this globe, when we photographed the fireball and found then the body on the surface as a meteorite. There are only 3 cases on the whole globe till now, which were scientifically documented, photographed and found out.
Dr Zdenek Seplika is head of the Interplanetary Matter section of the Astronomical Institute of Czechoslovakia's Academy of Sciences. He's on a 2-month visit to the University of Newcastle, adding to his 40 years of research on the astronomical phenomenon.
The Earth's atmosphere, they are bringing a lot of organic material. There are somehow maybe clue to all these origins of life on our planet.
There's another theory that once again an enormous meteorite will land on Earth causing destruction, but it seems it's not all bad news.
Then each 10 weeks comes one 10-meter-sized body in the atmosphere bringing a lot of water and organic material. It means even after such destruction you have some hope it will be renovated again.
So what are the chances we'll be bombarded by a huge fireball one day soon?
And okay, it may be next second or so, or next minute. Okay, it's very low probability, that's only I can say.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Last night's encounter at the Sulphide Welfare Club followed a first one in March at the beginning of the environmental impact study by Gretley. That report is yet to go on display, but residents of the new area to be undermined to the west and south of Edgeworth, as far as the Pasminco smelter, are being kept up to date. 2 main topics dominate: the likely effects of subsidence on properties in the Cockle Creek floodplain and the haulage of coal through the streets of Wallsend. Mining officials said plans had already been changed to aim for negligible subsidence of the floodplain, and truck journeys would not increase significantly because the mine extension is looking for higher quality coal, not necessarily a greater output. Newcastle Wallsend Coal Company says its proposed 460-hectare extension to Gretley would help secure the jobs of 200 people for a further 5 years.
Since turning pro in December, Wayne Stewart has been working 6 days a week, perfecting his swing. The 23-year-old from Toronto, Lake Macquarie, is a former Australian schoolboy champion and Australian amateur foursomes champion. He's already played in 9 events as a pro, his best to tie third with Peter Senior in the Cannon Challenge in Sydney. Another highlight, having a hit with his idol.
I was lucky enough to play with Stephen Elkington in the Australian Masters this year, and which was an experience. It was just incredible. It was great.
Wayne will be away for 3 months playing 16 tournaments in Canada, including the prestigious Canadian Open. Each event carries more than $150,000 in prize money. He'll also play in Hong Kong and Singapore. The young pro believes he can earn a good living on the circuit. He's already signed a manager to take care of the finances. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The Falcons simply didn't start well and let Magic get a commanding lead early. The 2,000-strong crowd tried to whip the Falcons into action, but it didn't have the desired effect. However, Terry Dozier still managed to stand off and bag them from wide out. Michael Johnson tried to lead the way and inspire his troops. Late in the fourth quarter, the Falcons found the surge they had been looking for, but it swept by Jason Joins. Peter Harvey was having his usual blinder, finding the ring from all over the court, but in the dying minutes he was moving towards a ruck when he was hit fair on the collarbone by Simon Curl. The referee failed to take any action and Harvey was forced to leave the court in a fair amount of pain. From there, Magic tidied the game up and leaving the Falcons in about 6th place on the ladder.
The Barrington Tops National Park covers 38,000 hectares. The Wilderness Society wants the national park, plus several adjoining state forests, to be declared a wilderness. This would incorporate 63,000 hectares, stretching between the Manning and Hunter Valleys. The Wilderness Society believes management practices in national parks need to be revised, and a wilderness declaration would help achieve this.
Like four-wheel drive and bush bashing, forestry practices such as the Forestry Commission, and a lot of other things that are going on in the area right now are not compatible with maintaining the ecological diversity of the area.
The proposal has raised the ire of users like the four-wheel drive groups. If it goes ahead, the group believes vehicular access to the wilderness area will be totally restricted, the area only open to walkers.
Responsible user groups such as the Boy Scouts movement will not be able to use the area as they traditionally have done. The average picnicker cannot go up there in his vehicle and enjoy this area as he has before.
Mr Whelan disagrees, adding controlled vehicular access should be permitted. A Wildlife Services spokesman says a wilderness area doesn't necessarily represent total blockage to vehicles. Essential management trails for use by emergency organisations would exist. The National Parks and Wildlife Service has compiled an assessment report on the wilderness proposal. It's open for public comment until August. The wilderness proposal plus public submissions will then be considered by the Environment Minister. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
They'd travelled from around the country, collectors, restorers and industry scouts hoping for the ideal bargain. Old pieces of machinery and equipment were snatched up. This blacksmith's anvil a steal at $750. These ashtrays a mere $5. The clean-out was part of Freight Rail's 5-year $1 billion modernisation program.
It's a sign of the times. I mean, we've been modernising the railway now for some 4 years. We've spent millions of dollars in new equipment, new facilities, and I mean, really this stuff is just surplus.
The venue, Cardiff's Maintenance Centre, will close its doors in December, bringing an end to 60 years of operations. But today, business was booming.
I'm here looking for a few bargains.
I have a shop in Sydney and we're hoping to find some cupboards and things like that to restore and sell in our shop.
Primarily tools. I've had a run at a few things and I've bought some gear, but not as much as I would have liked.
I used to work here, so I'm just having a look at what things go for.
Keith Jones from Dorrigo's Steam Railway and Museum represented one of many groups competing to preserve a piece of history.
There's a great deal of competition, but as a general rule, there's a lot of gentlemen's agreements made beforehand.
By the end of the day, just over $200,000 was tallied, resulting in a healthy boost to Freight Rail's annual revenue. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
There's just a feeling of friendship and happiness. The kids are enjoying other people's performances and they're getting a big kick out of performing themselves. So it's one big happy family.
But it was still a case of last-minute nerves for students from more than 100 schools across the Hunter during today's final rehearsal. Years of planning, months of preparation and hours of practice have gone into the production, the largest of its kind in the state. NBN's Microbit will compare the event, designed to showcase and promote the region's young talent. And it won't only be the 250,000 sequence that will sparkle before the audience during Starstruck.
They can see 4 performances tonight, tomorrow night, matinee Thursday and Thursday night. They'll see music, dance, drama. They'll see a show with lots of kids in it, 2,150, but let's not sort of belittle it by calling it a kids' show. The achievements of these children are superb.
So, with the countdown to showtime underway, how are the stars feeling?
Nervous. Pretty excited.
Work we put in, it's finally going to pay off, hopefully.
It may look like any other colour copier, but it's the latest anti-counterfeiting breakthrough. The forging of banknotes is a huge industry, with Interpol and police seizing millions of dollars worth of currencies and cheques every year. It's believed thousands of dollars worth of $100 fake notes found recently throughout New South Wales are the product of colour copiers. But the crackdown, the counter-crime technology working in 2 ways. The preventive function recognises the world's major currencies. The defensive mode microscopically encodes the copier's serial number onto the document, which can then be scanned.
Then we can trace where this copier is and who owns it through our register. So we can trace from a copy through to the owner and where the machine is.
And the new encoding technology has many other uses. The source of leaked documents from government and business sectors can be easily identified. It's a weapon against crime welcomed by Interpol and police.
Well, from our information, it's very important to us because if businesses are realising the problems that occur through counterfeiting and are addressing this problem, it certainly helps the likes of us and Interpol to combat this type of crime.
At a cost of around $30,000, 25 copiers have already been purchased. But if you think anyone can use them...
Counterfeiters have a tough job. The key, the ID number, the control card, and now the additional preventive and defensive countercrime technology, it's no licence to print money.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
No sooner had Mark Fitzgibbon been announced as Maitland City Council's new General Manager this afternoon than he was already meeting some of the 260 employees under him. But behind the friendly handshaking, Mr Fitzgibbon has already begun thinking about being at the helm of an organisation with an annual budget of $28 million in a city of 50,000.
Well, I saw an opportunity at Maitland. There's a lot of reform going on in the industry at the moment. It's evident to me that Maitland has embraced that spirit, and it seemed to me to be the type of place I'd like to work.
After more than a decade of working for a number of Sydney councils, Mr Fitzgibbon's appointment represents a sort of homecoming. He was brought up in Cessnock, the son of Federal Labor MP Eric Fitzgibbon.
I don't carry any political baggage. I'm here to ensure as best I can, ensure our services are of a good quality and that our operations are efficient.
And while Mr Fitzgibbon, at 33, is one of the youngest council general managers in the state, Mayor Bob G sees that youthfulness as an advantage.
Well, I think Mark conveyed to council young, vigorous, new ideas.
Meanwhile, Newcastle City Council has announced its top executive appointments, combining experienced council employees with new faces.
Not even one of Newcastle's oldest places of worship was spared the wrath of the earthquake. Some repairs have already taken place. The 27 damaged stained glass windows have been restored, but won't be returned to their rightful place until other major work is completed. Nearly 4 years after the quake, builders have begun work on the two western towers. They'll be painstakingly disassembled piece by piece to make way for major structural work on the wall. The centre tower is also under repair. Built between 1892 and 1902, it's the first major facelift for the brick and sandstone structure. But it won't be a quick job. The overall project is expected to take more than 2 years to complete at a cost of around $5 million.
There was no shortage of people lining up to take advantage of the free haircut offer at the railway end of Beaumont Street today. Susan Lamb struck upon the idea to draw attention to her mobile hair care service. The council said its only concern was about the possible obstruction of the footpath, but wouldn't be taking action if there was no repeat performance. But the stunt did have every other hairdresser in the district hopping mad.
The opposition, they don't like us because we've got something new, we've got a fantastic idea. It's like dollar pizza and the Pizza Hut, they sort of don't get along, but it's fair competition.
And the idea is apparently thought to be a good one by at least one important body.
The Hunter Region Enterprise Agency gave me a grant of $6,000 to go into business. They thought that I had a fantastic business idea, and I was actually unemployed at that stage, and they thought, we want to get this girl in business, so here we are.
While hairdressing is usually carried out in licensed premises, Susan Lamb says she has permission from all relevant authorities. The Department of Industrial Relations administers the Factory and Shops Act, but a spokesman was not available for comment today.
There's been a lot of changes since these two teams last met. Lakes have become the hot and cold performers of the league. 1 week turning it on, the next is as if they haven't won a game all year. West, on the other hand, have continued their winning way, but their unbeaten record has come to an end.
All the guys have spoke about that loss, and it's really taken the monkey off the back, and I think the guys appreciate now that the game, you're out there to play to win each week, but it's good to get a loss every now and then.
Lakes captain Steve Walters has pulled out of the game with a shoulder injury. Taking his place will be Craig Hibbard, just back from a spell in England.
Steve's a very good player, and I believe this year he's sort of curved his aggression a bit, and he's playing very good football. So yeah, tonight at training I'll do a little bit to adjust there.
The Lakes West game will be played at Harker Oval on Sunday. Tomorrow, plenty of interest will centre on the Maitland-Curry game. The Pumpkin Pickers have won 3 on the trot and are keen to make it 4. Their forwards are now working as a cohesive unit, and the backs are running the ball well. That game will be played at Curry Sports Ground starting at 3 o'clock. There are 2 other games on tomorrow. The home ground goes to the team in red. On Sunday, just the 2 games. Some of the players weren't quite old enough to tie their own shoelaces, but they did have the finer points of the game mastered. The carnival attracted 30 teams from under-8s through to under-16s from across the region.
There's a couple of teams from Gundar, Walgett, Corindai,
Narrabri, the 3 teams from Narrabri, the convent, the West School and the public primary school.
They put plenty of gusto into their games and revelled in the muddy conditions. Among the winners, plenty of the Gunnedah sides. In the under-8s, St Saviour's Gunnedah defeated Gunnedah South, and St Saviour's also took out the under-9s. Weewall got up in the under-10s division. Gunnedah South had another win, this primary division. Narrabri took out the 14s and Corindi the 16s. Paul Harrigan was doing his usual Monday morning round of promotional engagements, but his mind was elsewhere.
There's nothing worse than waiting. The last pretty hard for me for the simple reason that everyone's been saying, oh, be confident and there's no problems, but I'm still one of those blokes who like to hear my name.
And when he found out he was in, the first person he rang was his dad. Selectors have basically picked the entire New South Wales forward pack, one of the biggest in years.
I think that's the way that Bob Fulton sort of likes his forwards pack to be, a little bit on the big side, but the New Zealand blokes will be very big also, and although we're big, we're still pretty mobile.
Harrigan will play for Newcastle this weekend against Canterbury and will then link up with the rest of the Aussie team on Monday for a week's training before flying to New Zealand.
The Oak Dairy Products factory at Hexham is the state's largest, handling up to 120 million litres of milk a year. 60% of that is packaged in plastic bottles. That's around 40,000 separate units every day. But it's not only the milk that produces benefits, now the containers can be recycled. Knight's Paul Harrigan, on hand for today's launch, hopes to spread the message to the whole family.
Instead of putting their plastics in the bin, that they recycle them at the depots that have been appointed, and if they do that, obviously it starts it up. So if they don't do that, the whole program is basically defunct. So I want to have a say that the kids do have a say in the environment.
It's a joint program between the Australian Cooperative Foods Company and Lake Macquarie Council. But it's here at GTC Recycling at Redhead that the action takes place. This baling machine crushes around 6,000 bottles into blocks weighing 250 kilograms. They're then transported to a Melbourne company that manufactures a range of products, including compost bins, pallets and wheelie bins. Another small step that could make a big difference.
Recycling is important. It does make a contribution to waste management and it does assist the environment. So the more products that we can recycle, obviously it has a greater benefit for the environment and for the waste management problems that we face today.
And the idea could soon spread. Newcastle City Council is also considering introducing a similar scheme. Melinda Smith, NBN News.